You picked up your phone 96 times today. The average person in 2026 spends 7 hours a day looking at screens connected to the internet. 7 hours. Almost half of every waking moment routed through a system that is 60 years old and was originally designed to survive nuclear war. What if that system never existed? Not because the technology was impossible, but because the specific government funding decision that made it happen, one bureaucratic response to a Russian satellite in 1957, went a different way. What does a world without the internet look like in 2026? October 4, 1957. The Soviet Union launches Sputnik, a basketball-sized satellite, orbiting the Earth every 96 minutes, beeping. Americans can hear it on their radios. The most powerful country in the world is suddenly terrified of a metal ball. Eisenhower's response is institutional. In January 1958, he creates ARPA, the Advanced Research Projects Agency, within the Department of Defense. Its mandate: ensure the United States never again falls behind in transformative technology. ARPA's initial focus is missile defense and space technology. But in 1962, a psychologist named J.C.R. Licklider is hired to run ARPA's computing division. Licklider has a vision: computers should be connected to each other. Not just physically. Conceptually, as a network that allows any researcher to access any other researcher's data from anywhere. This is not an obvious idea in 1962. Computers are room-sized machines operated by specialists in white coats. The idea of connecting them is, to most engineers, absurd. But Licklider has ARPA funding. Federal money. No need to justify it to a market. By 1969, ARPANET connects for universities. By 1983, it adopts TCP/IP protocol. By 1991, Tim Berners-Lee creates the World Wide Web. By 2000, half of America is online. By 2026, the internet is the infrastructure of human civilization. The entire chain depends on one decision: Eisenhower creating ARPA in response to Sputnik. In this timeline, the internet doesn't happen. Not because computers don't advance. Not because networking is impossible. But because the specific federally funded basic research that proved packet switching viable, research that had no commercial justification in 1965, never receives funding. The market alone would not have produced the internet until much later, if ever, and almost certainly not in the same form. Subscribe to the Alternate Archive, a new timeline opens every week. Computers still happen. The Silicon Revolution, driven by semiconductor physics, Moore's Law, and the personal computer market, proceeds on roughly the same timeline. IBM still builds the PC in 1981. Apple still builds the Macintosh in 1984. Microsoft still dominates desktop software. What doesn't happen is the unification. In our timeline, the internet succeeded because it was open. TCP/IP was freely available, non-proprietary, designed by academics with public funding. Any computer could connect to any other computer using the same protocol. This openness was a design choice that came directly from ARPA's academic culture, not from a market logic that would have produced proprietary, incompatible competing standards. Without ARPANET's open protocol, the 1990s looked different. Multiple proprietary networks exist: CompuServe, Prodigy, AOL's equivalent, France's Minitel. Each is a walled garden. None talk to each other. The dream of universal connectivity never coalesces because no single open standard emerges to unite them. By 2000, most businesses have some form of electronic communication. But it's corporate. Expensive. Proprietary. The average person communicates by telephone, fax, and post. Newspapers and television remain the dominant information sources. Libraries remain essential. The world is not dark. It is not primitive. It is modern, technologically sophisticated, and functional. It is simply organized differently around information. Here is what doesn't happen without the internet. Amazon doesn't exist. The retail revolution that destroyed malls, bookstores, and local commerce never occurs. Physical retail remains dominant. Small businesses compete on local reputation rather than against an algorithm. Netflix doesn't exist. The entertainment industry remains studio-controlled. Hollywood's power is undiminished. Musicians sell physical albums. The creative class earns money from distribution because distribution requires infrastructure that individuals can't replicate. Social media doesn't exist. The public square is physical: town halls, newspapers, broadcast television. Misinformation spreads at the speed of television rather than the speed of light. Political polarization exists, it always has, but without algorithmic amplification, its velocity is human. The Arab Spring doesn't happen in 2011, or rather, it takes a different form. The specific mechanism of mass coordination through social media that enabled rapid revolution in Tunisia and Egypt doesn't exist. Revolutions still happen, but they require physical organization at human speed. Journalism survives. This is not a small thing. In our timeline, the internet destroyed the advertising model that funded local newspapers. Between 2000 and 2020, American newspapers lost 70% of their staff. Local news collapsed. The information infrastructure that held communities accountable, city council coverage, court reporting, school board journalism, evaporated. In this timeline, newspapers are still profitable in 2026. Every city has multiple competing dailies. Investigative journalism is a viable career. The public is informed by professionals rather than by algorithms optimized for engagement. This world is not a paradise. The democratization of information the internet enabled was real and genuinely revolutionary. In our world, a person in rural India can access the same information as a professor at MIT. That access transformed education, health outcomes, and economic opportunity for billions of people. In this timeline, information access remains a function of physical proximity to institutions. Rural communities, developing nations, poor families, all have less access to knowledge because knowledge is still stored in physical locations accessible only to those who can physically reach them. The educational gap between rich and poor nations is larger in this world. The specific equalizing force of universal information access, a child in Nigeria studying the same Khan Academy courses as a child in New York, doesn't exist. Political organizing is harder. The specific tools that enabled democratic movements, from the Iranian Green Movement to Myanmar's Spring Revolution to Ukraine's Maidan, were internet native. Without them, authoritarian governments have an easier time controlling information. The balance between state and citizen tilts slightly toward the state. Remote work doesn't exist. The pandemic of 2020, if a similar virus emerges, forces different solutions. People either work in person or don't work. The economic disruption is larger. The death toll may be higher because telecommuting isn't an option. So what does 2026 look like? Technology is not behind. It is different. Computing power follows the same Moore's law curve. Artificial intelligence still develops, academic labs and corporations still build neural networks, but without the massive training datasets that the internet provided, AI is narrower. It solves specific engineering problems. It doesn't generate text or images from prompts, because the training data for those capabilities was the internet itself. The economy is structured differently. The 5 largest companies by market cap in our 2026, Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Google, Amazon, are all internet dependent. In this timeline, the 5 largest are probably still technology companies, but they sell hardware and license software rather than advertising and cloud services. There is no attention economy because there is no universal platform to monetize attention. Mental health statistics are different. This is difficult to state without sounding like a Luddite fantasy, but the data is clear. In our timeline, rates of teen anxiety, depression, and self-harm began rising sharply around 2012, the year smartphones became ubiquitous. Multiple longitudinal studies link this to social media use specifically. In this timeline, those specific pathways to mental illness don't exist. Loneliness statistics may also be different, but in the opposite direction. Physical community is stronger because there's no alternative to it. But loneliness for people who are physically isolated, elderly, rural, disabled, is worse because the internet's connective tissue for the physically disconnected doesn't exist. The balance sheet is genuinely uncertain. Our internet gave us universal information access, democratic tools, economic opportunity for billions, and connection across distance. It also gave us surveillance capitalism, algorithmic radicalization, epidemic loneliness, attention fragmentation, and a mental health crisis among the young. This world traded all of that, the good and the bad together, for a slower, more physical, more local, more institutionally mediated reality. Whether that trade is favorable depends entirely on who you are and what you need. The internet exists because one president responded to one satellite by creating one research agency that hired one psychologist who had one idea about connecting computers. That is not a simplification. It is, genuinely, the causal chain. Remove any link, the funding, the agency, the open protocol, and you get a fundamentally different world. We live inside the internet. We think through it. We relate through it. We cannot imagine its absence because we have never experienced its absence as adults. The world without it is not worse or better, it is genuinely unimaginable from within ours. That is the deepest form of alternate history. Not a world that went wrong. A world we cannot access because the tool we would use to imagine it is the tool that doesn't exist there. Tell me in the comments, would you choose the world without the internet? Be honest. I genuinely don't know my own answer, and I think about it more than I should. Until the vault opens again, subscribe to the Alternate Archive.